Hello everyone. Welcome to our 8th episode on the Neural Network. My name is Vasu and Rishith, and unfortunately today we're not joined by my co-host Armaan Priyadarshan. He unfortunately has a sore throat, but don't fear because he'll be back for our next episode. Today we will be joined by Rishith Prathi, a senior at Shrewsbury High School who is currently matriculating to Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania. Unlike some of our past interviewees, we hope to highlight a unique aspect of his experience with computer science, his expansive research programs. But first, Rishith, would you like to introduce yourself to the Neural Network podcast listeners?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Rishith Prathi, and I go to Shrewsbury High School, as Vasu said, and I'm currently a senior. I've done a few activities with computer science, and last year I learned a bit of computer science, such as a few programming languages like Java and Python. And outside of that, at school, I'm part of the speech and debate team as well as Vasu, and I do swim, and I'm part of a few clubs.
Yeah, all pretty cool stuff that you do, especially speech and debate.
But
have you looked into artificial intelligence at all recently, or is that something you'd like to look into further at Carnegie Mellon University?
Last year I was planning on doing a research project with a friend on AI, and I actually looked at the documentation for ChatGPT's AI a bit. The project kind of fell short a little. We never got it started, but during that research phase that we did before we were planning on starting the project, I did do a bit of research into its API, and it seemed really interesting, and it's going to be a booming industry in the future, I think. So it's definitely a minor or like a concentration I'll definitely consider while going to Carnegie Mellon, and it's something that I most likely will do. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I mean, me and Armaan couldn't agree more that artificial intelligence is ever growing. We've looked at the impact it's had on education, such as through our previous interview with Dr. Heffernan, which discussed about Assessments, which is actually a program that he uses to help AI-generated content for actually students who can then iterate that model to then gain better feedback than they might as well have done by doing their homework in a different manner. So I guess my question is, what was your project that you were considering to use artificial intelligence for, and how do you think that might change with recent developments potentially?
Okay, so I was gonna do my project with a friend, and his dad actually works at he works at a larger tech company, and he had this sort of side project that he basically gave to us, and if once we completed the project, it would go back to the company. And so the project basically had to do with utilizing ChatGPT's API to basically create a sort of filter out ChatGPT to be able to create a course for a class in high school. So basically a teacher, for example, can enter in give me a course for 9th grade algebra, for example, and the AI would potentially output a sort of design and overview for the rest of the year. And then we also had planned to basically make it fluid, and so it can change based on how students in the class are struggling. So for example, it could give worksheets that are easier if the class is struggling on a certain topic, and if, for example, one student is doing really good in the topic, a teacher could enter in, hey, give me a worksheet that's more challenging and maybe explores a different topic in that class since the student is doing so well. And that's what we had planned. We did a bunch of research on it, but senior year started and then we never really got to doing it.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. But I mean, the idea itself is very cool and very innovative. I mean, it's very interesting to see how much of an impact artificial intelligence is truly having on education, especially as a tool, some might argue. Because I know that in the past, some have argued that artificial intelligence is actually bad for education. So I guess, what's your opinion on artificial intelligence and if it benefits or actually harms society?
I think education-wise, it does have a lot of potential. Of course, there is the fact that it's so much easier to, use it as a way of cheating on, like, English assignments, for example, is very common in my school. But, like, trying to ignore that fact, it definitely has a lot of potential for education. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is true, but I think I read in some news source that there is AI courses courses created by AI that are actually being taught in some schools somewhere in the US. And I just think that's really interesting and that can really help. And ChatGPT definitely has so many benefits for society. In fact, I think there's this robot that was created that can literally replace the role of a computer, information technologist or something like that. And the fact that there is technology that can basically replace jobs is a little scary, but it's also innovating and really will progress our society a lot in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. I mean, it's kind of walking a balance beam inside some sort of way, because not only do we see the immense amount of potential that artificial intelligence has, but we need to make sure that we use that power safely.
Definitely.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at some of the actual programs that you've taken a part of that our listeners might be a bit interested into researching themselves, could you elaborate on what Pioneer Academics is?
Yeah, so I honestly would say that compared to other students in my high school, or at least students concentrated in the computer science field, I would say that I don't have too extensive research and work into it. But I did do two major programs and I would say like research projects in high school. And the first one I did, and arguably the longer one, is Pioneer Academics. And so basically it's this online one-on-one, not really one-on-one, but independent, I would say, research program that took about 2 or 3 months. And basically we had this professor which half the time taught group lessons, but then the second half taught individual lessons. And the first half was the group lessons where he basically taught us, and in my case, my concentration was data science. So he taught us a bunch of data science topics, such as classification models and clustering models and the math-related aspects of those models. And then after these group lessons, we were able to start our independent research project. And so this was more creative for us. We didn't really have a set topic to do. It just had to be in data science. So I remember one person did, being able to recognize words from really, really soft noise, which was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so the project I did was, how do I describe this? So the research paper's title was Determining the Location Dependency of Parkinson's Disease Voice Data. Yeah, that was it. And so basically what I did was Parkinson's disease data classification is actually a really common research topic, and it's been extensively researched. So, when I found out about that, I kind of wanted to lean away from that topic, but I tried to change it up, which is why I did determining the location dependency of this data. And what that basically means is that instead of just classifying and determining if you could diagnose Parkinson's disease with one data set, I did this with 2 data sets. I think one was from the US and then one was from Istanbul. And I wanted to see if one classification model would be able to diagnose both data sets with the same amount of accuracy. So it honestly wasn't too complicated of a paper, but the only time consuming aspect of it was I had to do over 20 tests, I think, because I needed to classify a Istanbul data set trained with a USA data set, classify a combined data set with just a USA trained data set. And then I needed to figure out which training / testing pattern gave me the highest accuracy in Parkinson's disease diagnosis. And my paper ultimately determined that it's very difficult to be able to classify both data sets with just one trained model. And yeah, I thought it was a really good research program, and it actually taught me a lot. And it definitely helped me out with writing my, supplemental essays for college, because I was able to write about this research program extensively throughout a lot of my essays. And it was really, really cool. So yeah.
No, that's a very interesting project. Firstly, I just like to comment on the fact that you took such a very broad field, as you mentioned, that's been researched pretty heavily, but you added that very niche factor to it about location dependency, which I think is extremely cool, because I would have never thought of ever comparing data sets internationally per se, because a lot of the times when we complete science fair projects or other projects, we always try to look for data that's local, but it's very cool to think that like a geographical implication can be there that could change the results. And beyond that, regarding the actual artificial intelligence of the project, I think nowadays we're able to see that a lot of these projects are able to get very high accuracies per se. I know that one of my friends, Leidenschi, was able to complete a project where he was fundamentally looking at a disease and training a model, and was able to find that the accuracy during some small portions of the diagnosis process was actually higher than the doctor's accuracy. So what are your thoughts on how artificial intelligence should be used within the medicine field, and how much of an impact should it have in terms of diagnosis, and what you think would be the optimal implementation of artificial intelligence fundamentally within that field?
That's really interesting that you talk about Leibniz's research and how he was able to get a higher accuracy than research he found online. And that just goes to show, I don't think did he use AI actually?
I think he did, because he was able to train a model. So
So that just goes to show AI and machine learning are going to go hand in hand in the future, and they're going to work really well together, because it basically just bypasses the whole training phase of machine learning. It's able to do it so much easily using the APIs online, and it's just going to make diagnosing so much quicker, because the model is able to learn from its mistakes. At least from my work with from my experience with ChatGPT, it's able to learn when it's wrong, and this is going to be so much more helpful for the medical field, because it's just going to make models more and more accurate. And then not even that, but I feel like AI can be more of a database. It can store information so that when, for example, a doctor asks a question to AI, it could be a rapidly learning and then taking in information and then giving out information. And I feel like that's going to be very helpful for the medical field in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree any more on that matter. I really think that artificial intelligence is, in some way or another, going to find its integration within every single field eventually. And I do think that overall that is beneficial, given that it has a significant amount of power to do good. But as mentioned, we just have to make sure that we're correctly implementing it inside society.
Yes.
Now, looking at your research project a little bit further, could you elaborate on some of the challenges that you experienced throughout, whether it be about the CS specific topics or non-CS specific topics, and how you overcame those challenges?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to speak purely as a high school student here. I did this project during the end of my junior year. So this is when I had a lot of AP work, and then I was trying to get myself into my extra ECs that I had a lot more. For example, speech and debate. I was trying to do that a lot more near the end of the year, and I was going to national tournaments with you actually. And so having to manage my AP work, my speech and debate career, and the research project that I was doing, it was a lot. And I actually remember that I was literally like having to do this research project while we were at nationals, and that was just a lot. And it was a lot to take in. And even my professor had to speak with me one time on Zoom that I was a little behind on my preliminary research for my paper, and then I needed to pick up the pace. And one of my main comments at the end of the research project was that I had a law on my schedule at that time, and that it was really difficult for me to catch up. So speaking as a high schooler, that it is very important to manage your time and to know how much you can manage. Because as a high schooler, we want to do the most, right? So it's important to like know what you want to do and then have to drop things that, you know, just don't fit in your schedule. So that's a really important thing that I had to learn, and I hope whoever's listening to this can take that advice too. Another thing, this is more comp sci related, but so I used Jupyter Notebook, which is basically how do I describe this? It's kind of like it's a place where you could code in Python, but it's a little more, I don't know how to describe it. It just flows easier, and it's easier to see results at a faster rate. So my laptop's pretty weak with Jupyter Notebook, so it took a long time to run all of the tests I had to do. So I used a extra trees classifier model as the main classifier for my research, and I think this was a very power heavy model, so it did take a long time to test and train the data, like 20 times, I think. So that was really frustrating and really aggravating sometimes, because I just wanted to start writing my paper, but I needed to do all the research beforehand, which did take a lot of time and added to that, you know, time management aspect. It was really tough managing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do think that regardless of what point you are, whether it be middle school, high school, college, or even beyond, time management remains to be a very crucial and foundational skill that we're always continuously improving upon. And so I feel like it's very nice that you spread light upon that issue and talked about how you had to overcome that challenge. And then regarding the CS topic you mentioned, Jupyter Notebook, I really do think that some of the potential limitations for entry-level computer scientists are the hardware that they have in terms of machine learning specifically. I know that one of my friends who actually completed a project at Mass Academy had to run his machine learning model even overnight. And when he went to school, he would ask his parents to make sure that his laptop was still running. So it is a very hardware, CPU, GPU utilizing field. So I do think that hopefully in the future we can try to optimize these characteristics in a more accessible way for more people, as different researchers are. Many researchers are working on this inside the field. Looking at another program you actually did, which you kind of hinted towards, which was Beaverworks Summer Institute. Would you like to elaborate upon that for a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I did this one the summer going into 12th grade, and this was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had in terms of computer science. So this was a completely free program that I applied to near the December of junior year, and before it, you had to complete a preliminary online program before you could actually go to MIT during the summer. And this was a 2-week program, so wasn't that long, but it was 4-week program. This was a 4-week program, and we basically there's a bunch of different courses. So I chose a course called On-Demand Air Systems, Synthetic Aperture Radar, and to dumb it down, it's basically where we have to code a radar that's mounted on a drone to scan a gridded area and determine if there are any objects in that area using a heat map that we would basically code, and then it would project on our computers, and then, you know, you could see if there's objects in the heat map based on the color differences. Wow. Yeah, so it was very interesting because we weren't given that many instructions at the start of the program, and we kind of were just forced to jump in the deep end. So it was very coding intensive. It was literally every day we came, we programmed, and then we left. And we were assigned into groups of 5, and there are 4 groups in total in my class. No, 5 groups in total, 5 people within each group. And it was really collaborative. We cooperated a lot. We developed strong bonds with my team. And yeah, it was really fun. I mostly worked on back-end stuff, and I was mostly like an algorithm specialist, I would call it. I basically, our team lead basically just assigned me different algorithms for me to complete, and they're mostly math-related, which is what I enjoyed most. So I was more than happy to do it. And yeah, it was really, really fun, and I'd definitely suggest it for incoming seniors.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you brought that up, because I'm just thinking about it right now, and this episode has tended to be more CS specific in the sense that we're actually analyzing CS at a meta level, which I actually really enjoy. Because while we could be delving deeper into what is Jupyter Notebook or what are these different fine-tuning models, I really appreciate that you've looked at the whole entire situation as more of like an opportunity, which is really what CS is for many individuals. It's an opportunity where they can use this amazing tool, whether it be AI or ML or just pure CS, to really elevate how they're accomplishing certain tasks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and that's actually one of the reasons I went into CS. I really enjoyed math throughout middle school and high school, and I just wanted a way to apply that math into something that can really like change the world a lot. Like, for example, AI, that's like changing the world a lot, and that's mostly computer science based. So I just think that it's really interesting that I'm able to create anything I want with my interest, mathematics, to help the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the interview, Rishith. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners off with to think about or reflect upon?
Yeah, of course. If there is any high schooler or even middle schooler that's interested in computer science, literally just try anything. Just start by like searching up like a Python tutorial on YouTube. That's like start any way you want. And then once you get more into it, look at some research programs online, such as the ones I did. I'd truly suggest them to anyone. And yeah.
I think that's a fantastic answer, especially because CS is a growing field, and inside today's society, it's very important that we take our own action for our education, especially given the vastness of the internet. On that note, I'll be concluding this episode. I quickly do want to remark 2 things. The first being that on behalf of Armaan and I, we apologize for not uploading last week. Unfortunately, our schedules got a little bit busy, and we're hoping to maintain our continuous weekly upload schedule for the future. And the second thing is, similar to our Dr. Heffernan episode, we have a very big episode planned next week. So please tune in next week to listen to that episode. But on behalf of me and Rishith Prathi, thank you for listening to the Neural Network.
Thank you for having me, Vasu. And thank you all for listening.